If your layout has a rural section, you're going to need to know how to make dirt and gravel roads. Also some old asphalt roads. My layout has a rural valley with dirt, gravel, and old asphalt roads. And this tutorial will show you how I made them. And you can make them too. Right, we're going to begin our country roads with a dirt road. Going to use this to represent my sub-base. You can color it if you want. The secret to making a dirt road, which will be our first road, is dirt. This is dug up from my backyard near a cottonwood tree. It's fairly dark, but we don't worry about the color too much because with our chalk we can make it any color we want. The chalk I'll be using is by AIM. That's I believe it's America in Miniatures. They make lots of weathering products, and I've been using their powder. This container, when it's full, is about $5. Also, I'm going to be using ballasting glue. This is the same glue I use to ballast my track. It's 1 part white glue, 2 parts water, and this jar, when it was full, I believe had about 2 tablespoons of liquid dishwashing detergent to use as emulsifier. I'm also going to be using this pick. I'll be using that to put the ruts of the road in. This comes in a set of 4 different picks for $4 at Harbor Freight. I also have some palette knives I'll be using. These palette knives I buy at Hobby Lobby for $3 a piece. And this one I'll probably use because it's easiest, but when you're working on your layout, you'll need something with an offset handle so that you can put it down flat and still have room for your fingers. Okay, I also have several brushes for applying chalk. I take cheap brushes and I cut the end off so it's still a brush, but it's stiff and allows me to grind the chalk into the surface. Alright, so I'll begin with, I'll take my mixing bowl, pour some dirt in, pour some glue, and mix. We want the mixture complete. You have to make sure there's no dry dirt in here, that the glue is touching everything. But you want it fairly stiff, like mashed potatoes. Not lumpy, but stiff, so that when you mark the tire ruts, the ruts will stand up and hold and won't sag. So if it's not quite stiff enough, I guess that's pretty stiff. You can see there, it's holding. You wouldn't want it any thinner than that. All right. We'll take our palette knife and apply it to the whole surface. Now, on my layout, any area that is not covered with concrete and asphalt, I cover it with this dirt. I use that instead of various earth undercoat paints that you can buy. One of the reasons for doing this is the subsurface is smooth foam like this, or it's a smooth plywood, and we don't want a smooth earth surface. We want an erose surface, one that's been exposed to wind and rain and has little animals digging in it and big animals digging in it. Now, as you notice, I'm not putting it on very thick, because if you get too thick with the area where you're going to put your road, when the glue dries, it will contract, and it may destroy all of your work. So it's going to be just thick enough to put our ruts in. Now, if a rut goes down into the foam, it doesn't make any difference because the ruts will be colored. The whole idea of the color is to make the ruts where the earth is packed tight from the vehicles passing over it will be a lighter color. And that's how we'll do that, is with the chalk. Okay, now that we have our dirt surface, I'll take the pick over and I'll just run it down here. Try not to drag it, because if you drag it, you're liable to drag the dirt away. Let's make it just a little wider. Now, I work in N scale, so my ruts are going to be fairly close together. If you work in HO, put yours farther apart, it all works the same. And that is all there is to that. So we will let that dry. If you can't see the ruts too clearly now, because they're not very deep, they will stand out when we put the chalk in. And then we're going to cover it with ground color, and we'll have a nice looking dirt road. Alright, the glue for our dirt road is dried. You see the tracks here. So I'm going to do the coloring with chalk. This is also by AIM, which is Adventures in Miniature, not America in Miniature, but Adventures in Miniature. This is a 4-pack of four smaller amounts. This is called Earth, and it just happens to be the same color as the dirt I'm using. This is a rust color. This is the dirty white that I used in my gravel, that I will use in gravel roads. And this is called sand, and it's also very much like the dirty yellow. Either one of these colors works well in the ruts. Now I'm going to use a little bit bigger brush because I'm going to do the edges of it. And I'm going to take broad strokes. I don't have to go out to the edge of my little area here, just a little bit away from the rut itself, the part that's actually the road. Everything else will be covered with undergrowth. You'll want, even the area that I'm working on now is going to be covered with undergrowth, but sometimes the dirt shows through, and around this road I'm expecting that the earth would be a little more dense, a little more hard packed, and therefore a little lighter than the dirt around it. See, I'm letting extra chalk get down into the rut. Now, for modelers who like to use static grass for their ground cover, that presents a problem with this dirt road, because the wet glue that's used in static grass would get down into the ruts, and any place where the glue is, the static grass will be there, and you don't want grass in the ruts. The dirt there is too hard packed for seeds to get in and germinate. So if you're going to use static grass, you need to find a way to get glue down the center and on the edges without getting it into the ruts. Then again, it may be possible to just go ahead and let the grass get in there, and then while it's still wet, use a tool of some sort and take the grass out in the ruts. So that may be a way to do it. But I don't use static grass because I find that even the shortest, the 2 millimeter grass is like over knee high in end scale, and so I don't use it. I could probably use it for a fallow field or something like that, something with overgrown grass, but not with something that somebody can walk on. All right, now that we have the ruts done, I'll go ahead and use the white glue. Use it full strength because we need it to stay where we put it. Bring it up to the edge and in the middle. As you can see with the white glue at full strength, there's no danger that the glue will slide down into the ruts. Now for my ground cover, I'm using Fine Turf by Woodland Scenics. Just a little more glue here, and we'll be done with this. Right. I'm going to start with this Earth Blend blended turf. Use my spoon to apply. Now I'm not worried about dropping anything into the ruts here because there's no glue in there. And over on the edges just a little bit. And we'll fill out the rest with a mixture of medium green and yellow grass. Get a little down the middle. And use my long bristle brush, round brush, to punch it into the glue to mix the different various colors. And there you have it, with the addition of some bushes and some rocks, and there's even room here for a tree. You've got yourself a nice little dirt country road. Alright, I have another piece of painted foam for the gravel road. Now I'm going to mix some of this in here. I'm not sure how much. I'm going to try this about 4 parts dirt to 1 part gravel, and this is again the fine ballast. And I'll mix that right in with it. So we have a good mix. And again, the fine ballast is just for texture, not for color. As you see, the dark dirt is going to completely overwhelm this light ballast I'm using. Alright, and again we're going to make a 1-lane road. And we'll lay it down the center just as we did for the dirt road. The glue that I used to mix the dirt will combine with the gravel that I'm going to, or the ballast that represents the gravel I'm going to put on this dirt, and that glue will soak in to the ballast to keep it in place on your dirt. All right. Again, we'll bring the sides down to meet our ground cover. Okay, now I'll take my ballast and apply it all over. And the ballast needs to cover the high part completely. It does not need to cover the edges out there, because ground cover is going to go on that anyway, and you can put that up over the ballast if you like. Okay. I have my long brush here, and I'm going to even this . And then, when I've got it even, I'll go ahead and push that ballast down into the glue and dirt. And then, using our tool, do the same thing we did with the dirt. Press down to make our tire ruts. And like the dirt road, when the dirt dries, I'm going to go back into these tire marks with some white chalk and run it up and down these ruts, and that will make them look like they are hard packed. Instead of the loose gravel that is not in the ruts. Now I'm going to wait for this to dry, and then I'm going to dump off any loose gravel that's there. Of course, if you're doing this on your layout, you'll need a vacuum to vacuum away the loose. But wait until the dirt dries before you do that. Just leave all of this ballast the way it is until it's dry. And when it's dried, we'll get back to it to do the finishing. All right, here is our gravel road. We'll dump off the ballast that didn't stick. I'll try to save that. I guess that's a lot of ballast. But as you can see, this ballast is in there, and it's only held on from the glue that's soaked into it from the bottom. Now, you can add ballast glue with your eyedropper to the top if you want to make it nice and hard. But before you do that, we're going to use the chalk. And for this, I need something lighter than gray, and I'm going to be using AIM's Dirty White. And I'll be using this cutoff brush. First, I want to go through and knock out some loose gravel, because remember, in the ruts the gravel is hard packed, so we don't want that texture that we have on the sides. We want less texture down here. Use that brush, knock it out. Then, to give the illusion of hard-packed gravel, we'll just lighten it in between, like this. The other side. And we have our basis of our gravel road. Now, one of the other things that you can do, if you want to, run down the edge here, and you can take out some of the gravel, but leave part of the other. Now remember, the dirt and glue mixture that we had here has some fine light ballast in it, and that will show to some extent. But you can also use a softer brush and do the edges, if you like. Right here I had too much chalk, so I'm just taking it out. So, then we're ready ground cover. I'll use Eileen's Tacky Glue because it's handy. You could just as easily use Elmer's white glue, but what you want to avoid is getting any glue in the tracks there. Now for your gravel road, as far as having any weeds and whatnot in your gravel road, you would do that the same way that you do weeds and in your ballast on your track. Now with my track, I generally spray the entire track with some glue, and then I sprinkle the green and yellow weeds about the track. But here you couldn't use a spray because of the you don't want any of the glue to get into the ruts. So if you're going to do that, you need to just go ahead and dot some areas. Not too much. That's too much. Just dot some areas up in there for the possibility of weeds getting down in between the gravel. Alright. I'll set that aside and I'll use my blended turf on the edges. Because of the dust of the gravel road, the grass doesn't grow as well there. Sprinkle some of this around the areas where you have some glue. And on the edges. Use my long brush here to blend these two in with each other. Well, that looks like a good way to put grass up in the glue, doesn't it? And there you are, a gravel road. If some of this has come off here, by the way, you can add your ballast glue now. If any glue gets down in here and wipes out your chalk, just put it right back in. I'm going to, right now, put some chalk in this area where I lost more ballast than I wanted to. Okay? And again, you can always go back in and chalk in the center if the use of glue causes that chalk to dissolve and it gets too dark down there. You can always go back. But now you have your gravel road. Right, I'm now going to show you two alternative methods for doing gravel roads. They're faster. One of them is one I picked up on YouTube. I think Woodland Scenics uses this one, and that is just to take a line of glue and then skip over where, and that'll be one rut in between each line of glue. Okay. Then you'll take your ballast. And dribble it over. Like this. But you will not press it down the way I did with the dirt. You'll leave it like that till it dries. Then you'll vacuum away the excess, or brush it away and pick it up if you don't want to waste it. And then the same thing. Then we'll use chalk on the inside. Another way to do it is just to lay the gravel in lines like this. Then take your ballast glue. I use an eyedropper to do this glue. Some people use a syringe. But then just add the glue to the top. Now this will make a flatter appearance. Looks like I still have some foam in my glue from my mixing. Just apply it as you would to ballast, and you'll still have ridges, which means you'll have tire ruts. Now, in this method, I will also use this to help keep it separate. And when that dries, we'll show you how to finish that. Alright, here are the gravel roads that I made the quick way without the dirt. And you can decide whether or not this is good enough for what you're doing. I think the weight of the ballast here squished down the beads of glue, and the ruts aren't as clear. So I'm going to break it apart just a little bit. But again, we're going to make the former ruts with the chalk. But as you see, it can be done this way. Alright, I'll take the white chalk, dirty white, and the cut-off brush, and make our ruts the same way that we did on the dirt, except there's no dirt under there. And we're almost through, and then we'll try putting a little ground cover along the sides to show it off a little bit. Okay. And I will grab my white glue. The undercoat here is necessary for doing it this way. If actually on my layout, any place that wasn't going to be asphalt and concrete, I went ahead and laid a cover of dirt over my entire layout. I'll show you that again when we've finished our roads. And we'll spot this a couple of places. All right, and put this along the edge of the use the long brush to mix and complete the coverage. When I'm doing this type of coverage for a field or something on my layout, I usually leave it on there nice and thick and then come back later and spray it with glue on top to make sure that it all sticks and is mixed the way I see it right here. Of course, if you spray this with a spray glue and you get it into the ruts, you'll have to re-chalk the ruts because the spray glue will dissolve that. Okay, so I have this now, but just to show for demonstration purposes, we'll just show what we have now. And there we have a couple of gravel roads. This one is the one that I did with the lines of glue, a line of glue, 3 lines. And this is the one where I put the line of ballast and then poured the glue on top. Now, if something like this is good enough for you and you don't need the high profile of this one, then by all means do that. It's easier and it's cheaper. So the next thing we have to do is our country asphalt road. All right, now for the asphalt road with the gravel shoulders. To make asphalt roads, a friend of mine, Doug Wright, Boulder Model Railroad Club, introduced me to black foam core. And I have a piece of a sheet that sells for $5 at Hobby Lobby. Be sure and bring your 40% off coupon, then it's only $3. And it comes in 20-inch by 30-inch sheets. And as you can see, it's black paper on either side with a black foam core. Most of the foam core is white, but this one is black. And you can cut your foam core into radiuses. I'm just cutting straight pieces for this demonstration, but over here you can see where I cut out a parking lot to fit. Anything that's asphalt can be made of this. You can also use it for buildings, and it's got a good texture. It's easy to work with, and it's especially good for asphalt roads because it's already the right color. So let me set this aside, and we'll get our piece to work on. If you're going to be cutting black foam core, I suggest you get something like this. This is a correction fluid pen, so it writes white, and you can use it for drawing your lines. I always cut the foam core with the paper still on, and then remove the paper. As you can see, the foam core is already textured. It's a good color, although I'm going to lighten it some with some white chalk to make it look like an older road. The way I attach it to my sub base is with Eileen's Tacky Glue. Also $3 at the Hobby Lobby. And the Tacky Glue sets up a lot faster than white glue, which is one of the things I like about it over the white glue. Also the fact that it dries flexible instead of brittle. But once I lay this down on the base, I don't have to wait for it to dry. I can start right on working it, as long as I'm careful not to nudge it. It's not going to nudge as easily as it would if it were white glue, and it will dry much faster than the white glue will. Tacky glue is also good for placing accents on your layout. People, cars. All right. So place this down the center of our sub base. And that will remain there while we do our shoulders. And for shoulders again, I'm going to be using dirt. Mix it with a little of the fine ballast. And the ballasting glue. By the way, when you're mixing your dirt, if you should happen to get it thinner than you want, put more dirt in it, because you don't want this thin. You want it to be able to stand up. You want it to have body. And the reason I bring that up is because I just put in too much glue. A little more dirt. Let me go ahead and show you this. See, I think that's too thin. I want it to have more body, stand up a little more. And since I've added all that dirt, let's add a little more gravel. You can see how scientific this is. Now you can see it has way more body, and that's what I want. All right. And we'll do this just like it's a little gravel road on the side of the asphalt road. And we'll taper it down to the edge. can see my asphalt, the foam core, is staying in place nicely with the Eileen's Tacky Glue. Although if I needed to move it now, I could. And I don't have to worry about that being in there like I would spackle. Comes right off. Now, I'm not going to carry the shoulder all the way out to the edges here. I think that would make too big a shoulder. I'm modeling an asphalt road out in a rural area where they would have a shoulder, but not much of one, because there's not enough traffic out there to warrant a shoulder that would allow you to put a car on the shoulder and far enough away from the road to be out of danger. Alright, and we'll treat this just like we did our gravel road. But again, I'm not taking the gravel all the way out to the edge. Just going to make about this road is 1 3/4 inches wide on an N scale, my scale. That's a little over 23 feet. So I think a 5-foot shoulder is plenty big. But of course, on your layout, you can do whatever you want. You don't even need a shoulder if you don't want. You could use the tool that we use for putting in ruts in dirt roads and in gravel roads to put a ditch on the side of the road and put that into this dirt. Okay. Once that's in, we'll push down, make my finger go up over the road so that when I push down, I don't squeeze the dirt away. And of course, the gravel that gets up on the road will not stick because there's nothing there to make it stick. Okay, now once we get all this gravel pushed into the dirt, we could start on the asphalt, but I feel it's better to go ahead and let the gravel shoulder dry before you do that. Better to be safe than sorry. Okay, so we'll let that dry and then come back and finish the asphalt road. Alright, here's our asphalt road. Again, I'll dump off the glue that, the ballast that didn't stick. And again, I'll rub down the sides here to make the gravel shoulder taper into the ground beside it. Alright, now to line the road, this is N scale, and so I have some pen striping tape. This is 1/32 of an inch. It's made as small as 1/64 of an inch. But 1/32 in end scale is 5 inches, so this would make a nice stripe. It's made by Linotape. It's not all that easy to find. I only found one roll of yellow on eBay, but in looking around I found hobbymasters.com, and they have this kind of tape in stock all the time, many different colors. And although it's basically made for pinstriping things like Pinewood Derby cars, it makes excellent lines down the middle of my country road. And put that slightly off center, because this is going to be a no passing zone. Because this tape is so thin, it grows around radiuses very easily. So I don't know if the 1/16, which is what an HO person would use, 1/16 is 5 inches in HO. I don't know if that will go around the curves very well, but the 1/32 takes the radiuses very easily. Now, to age the road, well, the road needs some cracks, and I'm going to do that before I put the weathering on. We'll just put a slice in it. Okay. And maybe we'll tear out a pothole right here. There's a pothole. Good crack coming out of it. Okay. And over here, put another pothole over here. Okay, see how easy that is. Also, if you want to, this is liquid electrician's tape. Comes in various colors. Oops, I just shook that up and made a mess. But you can use it for tar repairs. If you don't want that pothole there, you can fill it in. And when it dries, it'll look like a tar patch. Okay. All right. Also, that's what I do when I join pieces of foam core on my layout. I have that line across at the joint, and that will allow me to have just a tar joint instead of a hole in my road or a crack in my road. Okay, when I'm done making messes, we'll get to the chalk. Again, I'm using dirty white. If this color suits you, that's fine, but I want to make it, the dirty white will make it look a little older. If you wanted to have a broken line in yours, what I do to keep my lines straight is go ahead and pull out a full piece, and then I measure a 6-foot length and a 9-foot length, a 6-foot length and a 9-foot length. I leave the 6-foot lengths and cut out, using a pair of scissors, cut out the 9-foot lengths. And that way you have a straight broken line. If you try to cut off the pieces and put them down, your chances of getting it straight are pretty slim. Because it's difficult to... The only drawback that I see to using foam core for roads is that it's easy to dent. That's good when you want to dent it. It's bad when you don't want to dent it. I have some dents in my road where my grandchildren were playing, but I'll just fix them with some tar, and I'm thinking that they're going to look just fine. All right? And we can do a little ground cover if you like. I'll just put a line of this down here, and a line down here, and some dots. Well, that's not working very well. Okay, dot it a few places to get some weeds up in our gravel shoulder. Now, because I have my little tar patch in there, I'm going to want to avoid getting ground cover on that. I think I'm going to go straight with the green and yellow mix. Long brush. Remember, I'm going to try and keep it away from that tar. Knock it off, and there we have a country road.